Gene.
Run!
Gene, thank you very much for that introduction. And let me congratulate Marsha and John and Doug for your induction into the Hall of Fame here. And Mayor Bill Gruber was kind enough. See, in Iowa, you have very good constituent service. You have a good mayor who was kind enough to do transportation to get me from the airport to here. Bill, thank you very much. I certainly will do everything I can to see Dave Loebsack re-elected. And of course, when it comes to my fellow Brooklynite, Bruce Burley, I look forward very much to serving with him in the United States Senate. And best luck to Jan Hatch on becoming the next governor of the great state of Iowa. I want to start my remarks tonight a little bit differently than I ordinarily do. So I kind of want to get to the chase and tell you what all of this is about. Among other things, and I don't mean to be hokey here, I want to applaud all of you for doing what too few Americans are doing. And that is exercising your constitutional and patriotic rights to shape how our country works. You are participating in the political process. You're doing the hard work. You're knocking on doors. You're making the phone calls. You are fighting not only for your kids, but for your grandchildren and your children. Thank you all very much for doing what has to be done. Now let me tell you as strongly as I can what in fact, in my view, is going on in this country. And I'm going to start off by reading sections of an interesting document that somebody on my staff recently uncovered. Bruce Braley mentioned that the Koch brothers are a family worth $80 billion. And under the oppressive tyranny of Barack Obama, who is strangling the economy, they only saw their wealth increase last year by $12 billion. See? Imagine what would have happened if they had a Republican president. But they struggled through a mere $12 billion increase in wealth. They are spending money, not just here in Iowa. I don't think they're picking on your state. They have pledged to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in campaigns all over this country. And if you are worth $80 billion, if your wealth increased by $12 billion last year, what you have to understand, and it is hard to understand, for them, $50 million is what lunch is for ordinary people. It doesn't mean anything. They have endless, and I mean endless supplies of money to put into the political process. And the only judgment they have to make is when spending too much becomes counterproductive. But they can and will spend as much as it takes. Now the media has been writing a little bit about the Koch brothers, the amount of money they're going to spend. But what the media has not been talking about is what do these guys believe in? Why are they spending hundreds of billions of dollars, and in coming years will spend billions of dollars? And as a result of Citizens United, the worst Supreme Court decision in the modern history of this country,
Amen.
they have been given the right to do that. It is important for us to understand, what do they believe in? What do they want? What is their vision for America? And let me tell you, they do have a vision for America. It turns out that in 1980, David Koch, one of the Koch brothers, ran for vice president of the United States on the Libertarian Party. And he helped fund that effort. And the point that I want to make to you tonight is the ideas that he ran on in 1980, which at that point were considered kooky, crazy, extremists, which got them all of 1% of the vote. What their extraordinary success has been is they have taken the Republican Party so far to the right that those ideas that 30 or 40 years ago were considered to be crazy are today mainstream Republican ideas. Now, what are those ideas? We should know that. The American people should know that. If somebody is going to spend millions of dollars trying to defeat Congressman Braley, what do they want? What do they believe? Well, let me start off just with a few. This is from 1980. Quote, this is directly from the platform of that party, and I have no reason to believe that any of these ideas, that they have changed any of their ideas over the years. Quote, we urge the repeal of federal campaign finance laws and the immediate abolition of the despotic Federal Election Commission. You know what that means? What that means is that Citizens United didn't go far enough. McCutcheon didn't go far enough. This is what they want, the elimination of all campaign finance laws, which will mean that the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson can sit in a real room and say, you want to run for office? Here is a check for $50 million, $100 million, and this is what you got to do. Some of you may remember last month in Las Vegas, Nevada, we had the first primary of the year. It wasn't a Democratic primary, it wasn't a Republican primary, it was a Sheldon Adelson primary. And what Adelson did is invited to Las Vegas prospective Republican candidates, and he sat down and he talked to them. And he auditioned them to see where they were coming from. And he will decide at some point which candidate will get his support and hundreds of millions of dollars. Who believes that this is what American democracy is supposed to be about? And we have got to do everything that we can to overturn the Citizens United decision and restore the foundations of American democracy so the billionaires do not begin to own the United States government. This was what they said in 1980. You know what the chairman of the Republican Party is saying today? Repeal all campaign finance laws. They have succeeded in taking that discussion so far to the right. Second, another plank. This is, quote, I'm quoting directly from their platform. Quote, we favor the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid programs. I'm not talking about cuts, the abolition of those programs. Well, they haven't succeeded. Not that they haven't tried. If you look at the Ryan budget in the House this year, they are in the process of ending Medicare as we know it. And their brilliant idea is to make Medicare a highly successful program which has saved God knows how many lives into a voucher program. So what they will do, if they get their way, is to say to senior citizens in this country, by the way, they also want to raise the eligibility age for Medicare. Here's their plan. We will give you a check, maybe $8,000, and with that check, you can go out and get the private insurance that you want. Now, you tell me, if you are 68 or 70, and you've been diagnosed with cancer, or serious heart disease, how far a check for $8,000 will go? It will go nowhere. All right? That is their idea. Medicaid, well, you know what's going on there. The Ryan budget proposed massive cuts in Medicaid, which would throw millions of people, lower-income people, off of that program. That's what they were talking about 35 years ago. We favor, this is quote again from their program, we propose the abolition of the government postal service. Well, guess what? I've been working really hard on that issue, and there are folks in the House that want to decimate the U.S. Postal Service. There was a proposal out there a couple of years ago to end 15,000 rural post offices, do away with half of the processing plants in this country. So that is still very much on their mind. Here's this one, a kind of modest proposal. We support the eventual repeal of all taxation. You know what that means? That's essentially ending government as we know it. We support repeal of all law which impede the ability of any person to find employment, such as minimum wage laws. You know what that means? The fight right now that we're having is to raise the minimum wage to at least $10.10 an hour. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think $10.10 an hour is a living wage. It's not. It's a lot better than the starvation wage we now have nationally of $7.25 an hour. More and more Republicans right now, they say, you see them on TV, they say, well, it's not a question of me voting to raise the minimum wage. I don't believe we should have a minimum wage.
We've already abolished that. We call it slavery.
And what that means in a practical sense, if you are in a high unemployment area and people are desperate for work, an employer says, well, I'm going to pay you $4 an hour. And you say, $4 an hour, I can't live on $4 an hour. And that employer says, well, that's okay because I got 20 other people who want that job. You take it or leave it. Abolish the concept of the minimum wage. Now listen to this. We advocate the complete separation of education and state. Government schools lead to the indoctrination of children and interfere with the free choice of individuals. Government ownership, operation, regulation, and subsidies of schools and colleges should be ended. You know what that means in English? The end of public education, the end of schools like Iowa State, and movement toward all private schools in America. That's right.
The heck with that.
We support the elimination of the Environmental Protection Agency. In other words, companies should have the right, the freedom to pollute our air, our land, and water without any restrictions. They also call for, we favor the repeal of the fraudulent, virtually bankrupt, and increasingly oppressive Social Security system. Pending that repeal, participation in Social Security should be made voluntary. The end of Social Security. If you add all of that up, and there's more that I didn't read, they have a vision for America, which is a vision that takes us back to the 1920s, when a small number of billionaires and large corporations determined what happened in America. They also believe, and I quote, we oppose all government, welfare, relief projects, and aid to the poor programs. All these government programs are privacy invading, paternalistic, demeaning, and inefficient. The proper source of help for such persons is the voluntary efforts of private groups and individuals. You know what that means? Goodbye food stamps, goodbye Head Start, goodbye unemployment benefits. You name the program and it is gone. This is what we are fighting. Now you won't see that on the 30-second ads that come in to Iowa. But deep down, this is their ideology and philosophy. It's an ideology that says that we should be moving to an America where a handful of billionaires control the political process because they can buy and sell politicians with no restrictions. And in terms of the economy, cutting taxes for the richest people in this country, for the millionaires and billionaires, and taking